Hi everyone, this is Covid back with another episode of Beyond the Code by Typo. Today with us, we have a special guest. He has 30 years of engineering and leadership experience. He has been the founder and ex-CTO of Arbor Insights. Currently, he's working as a technical leader at Ford. He's also an active modern agile community member. Welcome to the show, Eric. Great to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So, Eric, thanks a lot for taking our time and coming to the podcast, sharing your thoughts with the community. We're really looking forward to it. But before we jump into that, we want to have a quick fireside chat with you to know you a little more. Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. All right. So let's just start with your hobbies, maybe outside of work. What do you love?
Sure. I love building things. We do, all day as mental work. So, doing things like, woodworking or putting up drywall, even painting, love doing all of that. Just something tangible that, after all
What
day working on stuff that doesn't exist.
What was the last thing you built?
Recently I took up leatherworking. So I built a prototype really for a dice pouch. My son is an avid Dungeons and Dragons player. He's at college right now, so building him something to take with him to his gaming sessions.
Oh, that's so cool. Perfect. All right. Tell us more about something about your life, some life defining moments.
Yeah, I guess for me it was right after 9/11. I really wanted to just drop what I was doing, go to New York and help out, but I couldn't do that. I had a small family, I had a job, had a startup as it were. I found out a company in Ann Arbor was working on DNA matching software. A fellow I used to know got me an interview there, started working there, and then spent 9 years working on software to not just do identification of 9/11 victims, but also to help fight child trafficking, used in forensic work, used to help like in the Thailand tsunami. And that's when I discovered I could use my skills for, may sound corny, for the greater good, as it were. And so since then, I've always kept an eye out for any of the opportunities that come along to make sure that that was still fulfilling that need to help not just someone with accounting software, but somehow contribute to bettering everyone.
Oh, that's so nice. Great. We'll definitely talk about this more. Apart from that, like it's been almost 30 years into engineering. I just want to know, like, how was your first experience with coding, or maybe your first experience with your computer? Tell us something about that.
Yep. So my dad was an elementary school teacher, and when I was 7, he brought home an Apple II to do grading. They gave him to do grading, and I was just fascinated. And so I bought a book on Quick Basic and taught myself how to write code. It was really terrible, but I was able to make a character generator for Dungeons and Dragons because that's where my son gets it from. A big gaming geek, and so that was my first foray into that, getting the computer to do all the dice rolling, and then eventually print out all the character sheets so I wouldn't have to write them up by hand.
Oh, that's so nice. Perfect. Thanks a lot for sharing all this with us. Now, I would like to move to the main section where I would want to know your journey from a tech founder at Arbor Insights and then moving into a leadership come IC role at Ford. So, tell us about this transition, like what you used to do at the startup when you were working there, and then now you have transitioned to this leadership come IC role. How is it different? How is it better? How is it bad? Just tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely a transition. So at the startup, which was a lot of nights and weekends, and all the time I wasn't at my day job. And we had a fairly small team, so I wasn't just setting like building roadmaps and setting technical direction. It was also I had my hands in the code as well for a lot of it. But then moving from that to not just another programmer, but certainly not high up in the executive food chain, say at a large company like Ford. Definitely took a bit of time to get that mindset of yeah, I'm not setting the direction technically, but their team is really good. Our leadership is very supportive, so I'm still able to bring in ideas and techniques and tools and say, hey, we should try this, we should try that. I've got the leeway to experiment with on my team, and then bring that to the broader technical leaders. Once I've kind of vetted it with on a team, a project, and go from there. So that transition was interesting in a number of different ways. But while I'm you know not at the top of the food chain now, it's also a lot less stress because I'm not at the top of the food chain. So it was a nice kind of mental break to get back into more just more day to day coding and still making technical decisions, but at a smaller scale than at the like the CTO level.
Makes sense. So basically, all these years where you have worked, you wanted some break from the stressful situation or a stressful work that as a CTO you would be doing at startup. Now you wanted to move to something which was less responsible, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And our startup had gotten acquired, so I wasn't going to stay with
Yeah,
that
that's
company in particular. But yeah, I definitely needed something a little more stable for a while anyway.
totally makes sense. Perfect. So tell me more about your role at Gene Code Corporation, right? You were head of software engineering there. What exactly were your responsibilities in day to day, and how did you use to execute your routine, the challenges that you faced at that time? Can you tell us more about that?
Sure, sure. And that was the company where I was doing the DNA matching software. Previously, I had left, explored some other jobs, and then ended up going back to that company after the president reached out to me and said he needed some help. One of the really interesting challenges was only two of us were in the same time zone, and the rest of the dev team were 8 time zones away. So there was a lot of get up at 6 in the morning, get into work, have a couple hours of overlap time to go over what the team had done, the previous day, and then I'd spend the rest of my day working on technical feasibility of what they were doing and like how they could move forward to on the next step and what the direction to give them on the stories that they were going to pick up when they came back online. And then the end of my day was offloading that to them, and then going home and coming in the next day and finding out how it went. So that lag was definitely
The most
interesting to
stressful
deal with.
one.
And it was pre-COVID too, so we weren't used to working remote, but that certainly helped me anyway when we transitioned to more of a remote work environment, having that experience with a team, many time zones away.
I think still, a lot of companies were already before COVID were working remotely, and post
Hmm,
COVID, it has become even more normal to have a remote team.
right.
But I'm sure you have been doing that now, at least at Ford, it's not a remote role, right? Before this, you have been into a remote role, right?
Currently, Ford is remote.
Oh,
Um,
that's also a
yep.
remote role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
It's all remote. Uh, we do go into the office on occasion if we want to do like some whiteboarding in person or get a couple of teams together and brainstorm some things. But day to day, on the team I'm anchoring, we've got people in California and Colorado, New York, kind of spread all over the place.
My question was actually that if you are working as a remote leader of a team
Mhm.
and you're working as a remote IC, like these two roles working remotely, there is a whole lot of a difference. As an IC, like you just have to do your own work most of the times,
Right.
right? So it's okay for you to like be remote and do it. You are motivated enough and you're so senior that you know what to deliver, when to deliver. You remain committed to that most of the time. But if you look at it from the leadership perspective, that the role that you are into and handling teams remotely, I'm sure it would have been little difficult compared to having people in person, like keeping them motivated, checking on what exactly their enthusiasm is when they are at work, because it changes when it is remote. So at that time,
Right.
what were you using any specific tactics, or I should say strategies, to handle your remote teams better and take care of their well-being as well as their overall output of the work?
Hmm. Yeah, we didn't get into too much of that with the software director position at Gene Codes. Currently at Ford, though, in my position, the team around, we set up our core hours to make sure we had at least 6 hours of overlap, regardless of where we're
Got
located.
it.
And then we're always pairing our ensemble programming. Um,
Oh, that's nice.
and then and then we move stand up. So now we do that just before lunch so that we have some contiguous time in the morning with everybody. And then just before we're going to take a break anyway, do a quick stand up, and then after lunch, continue mobbing, ensemble programming, pairing. And that seemed to work out pretty well. And then we'll, for like morale building, we'll do like, once a month or so, just to have like a couple hours of, playing some online game together. Or one time we did a Ask Me Anything, but it was around each of the individuals, and you could put like 2 or 3 questions that you want to ask the other person. And we did sort of a like a lean coffee on that, and got to know some interesting things about our team members.
Cool. So when you are doing it remotely, even right now at Ford, as you said, that you have this setup where you try to overlap and do pair programming. This
Mm.
experience of pair programming, how do you find it? Like, is it beneficial in terms of getting more or better code done? I understand the point that if you have an overlap, at least you get to know each other, you stay connected. But if you look at the core work done through pair programming, what's your thought on that? When you're working individually, you are more focused and you deliver more quality. How does it work out? I'm interested to know that.
Sure. Yeah, for me, when I'm not pairing, I'm way more stressed at the end of the day. Whereas if I'm pairing all day, I'll be mentally tired, but not stressed. Because I'm not alone, right? I'm always working with somebody, sometimes 2 or 3 somebodies at a time. So we never get into a place where I'm stuck, I can't move forward because we have, multiple brains all working in the same context. And the same goes for either motivation or energy level. If I may be, starting to flag, my partner or the rest of the mob may be, on the upswing. So we're able to balance a lot of that out as well. And then just the knowledge transfer, right? Just being able to, it doesn't matter if I'm pairing with somebody who's senior, somebody who's junior, someone who just came in from college, who doesn't know what they're doing. I still can learn from them depending on, what we're doing. Maybe some shortcuts in the idea I didn't know about, or maybe some new TDD tool, or a different way to look at an algorithm. And so there's a lot of give and take, and I find a lot of value in pairing or ensemble programming, especially for onboarding. Like on any of my teams,
Right.
the day one, you are committing code, right? It's
Yeah.
not, oh, welcome to the team. Spend 3 months reading the manual over there in the corner, and then we'll get back to you later. It's hands on right away, get in there and get some work done, which I think is beneficial. And so far, I've heard nothing but positive feedback on that from the people coming into that environment too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really works there also. Cool. So now coming to this point where we are looking at pair programming, helping teams become more productive. In general, in so many years, you would have worked with different teams, built different teams, right? But the most important question always comes as a leader, at least, how much effort the team is putting in, how much effort is aligned to the business goals. How
Right,
would you define the success of your engineering team, right? And as a leader, you have to take the accountability and responsibility for that, right?
right,
So tell us about different experiences with different companies, of course, the way you have defined success for your engineering teams and how do you go about it?
right. So I guess it depends. Like at the startups, it was very much, are we getting the features out that our customers want because they're waiting for it, right? They said, here's what we need. We don't have any time. Get it out the door so we can get it in their hands. Um, and a lot of that ties into the metrics that DORA tracks and espouses. And then for me, the time between when we put pen to paper and say, here's an idea, to when that gets not just deployed but released out to the customer,
Right.
um, that's really one of the main metrics I look at. And then
Makes
also
sense.
number of defects that get released and things of that nature. So I'm not so worried about lines of code, not so worried about effort or how long does a story take, but really, are we generating value for our customers? And that may not be writing code necessarily, depending on what the feature is.
Cool. So even now, when you are part of such a big organization, right? We see a lot of frameworks, a lot of engineering metrics coming into the picture. So for smaller teams, when you have almost complete visibility, like what people are doing, what is getting delivered, I personally feel that this approach of setting the fundamental of delivering value as a success for engineering team is perfect, right?
Mm.
But when the size becomes bigger, like you have so many people working along with you, having a clarity for yourself as a leader and for the person who is working as an IC, as a developer on day-to-day basis, it's very difficult to keep them motivated just with this long-term vision of delivering value, right? I mean,
Right.
on daily basis, you're writing code, you really need to have a push where you know that, okay, I need to do this today. And you have to win every day, right? Not every day at least, but you have to put in that effort. So a lot of companies we see putting in metrics in place, right? Putting certain KPIs in place. What's your thought on that? Or for that matter, how do you do it right now with Ford? Are you guys implementing something? If you're comfortable sharing, please.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it's interesting because they're kind of going through um, that phase of, yeah, what should we be measuring, and how do we communicate to that to the teams, and how do we break it down at the executive level and at the next level, and on down to the developers. So what we've been trying to do is create objectives at a like a division level, and
Okay.
then at a more like a product line level.
Right.
And then from there, having each of the teams in that product line look at those OKRs and then say, okay, is that something we impact? Is it, then how do we impact that? And then generating their objectives and the metrics for success based on how they think they measure up to the overall objectives that the company has set. So doing a little bit of top down and then a little bit of bottom up. So hopefully they're kind of meeting in the middle and making
Right.
sense.
Making sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, is it okay for you to share any of the examples that you have recently seen getting implemented at your organization or somewhere else where you can actually tell us with clarity which metrics would be suitable for what kind of measurement? Do you have an example in your mind?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Part of the problem, especially at Ford, it's kind of a moving target because they're changing technologies. Partnered with Google now, and things are kind of moving at a fast pace for the development teams. So we've been looking into automating more of the DORA metrics,
Okay.
um, but like actually tying that into to Git for so we can track commits and tie that to stories and then track that through its life cycle is
Got
a
it.
bit of a challenge due to the different technologies in play right now. So hopefully they'll settle down and then we can get some of that automated.
Yeah.
Uh, right now, there are some dashboards in place using a tool like Datadog to be able to generate metrics and then post that
Got it.
someplace that's visible, so we can track, you know, uh, a lot of the not necessarily
Production failure.
velocity, but
Production failures, basically
yeah,
the observability there, right?
right,
So
right,
yeah, makes sense, makes sense. So I think this is also a very important metric to, I think one of the most important metric to track because ultimately it links to the customer satisfaction also,
mhm,
wherein if there are more bugs, more failures on the production, then the customers would be dissatisfied.
right,
So cool. I think yeah, that's a very relevant example.
yep, yeah. We're
So
going and we're taking not just that, but looking at, okay, how can we make that predictive? So, starting with, measuring uptime, downtime, but then working on instrumenting it so that we can tell, okay, it's about to fail. We
yeah,
need to intervene before it impacts
correct.
our SLAs.
Perfect, perfect. Absolutely. Apart from looking at the efficiency, I think one more important thing which has recently become very important is looking at the well-being of your team members, right?
Mhm.
Their experience. So, how do you guys do it at Ford, or how you have been doing it at other companies where you have worked? Can you just give us a few examples, like how you executed developer well-being? Probably, if there were some metrics you were looking at to ensure that people are feeling happy, motivated.
Mhm. Sure. I mean, one of the big things is we do a retrospective. I think it's about once a month now. We did it for every 2 weeks. That was a little much for the current team size.
Okay.
So we pushed it out a little bit longer. But on that, we have a wheel that has all kinds of emotions around the side, and we'll you know put dot vote those.
Okay.
Um, and then we just go through it and say, okay, I'm feeling excited because we're working on this project. I'm feeling worried because we said we'll get this done by the end of the quarter, and maybe I'm tired because we've been working extra hard because of the worry around what we promised.
Makes sense.
So a lot of that, and then spending more time on the retrospective on the more like emotional or personal side, rather than the technical side. We'll save the technical stuff for the day to day stand ups and interactions, but really for the retrospectives, we try to focus on like you're saying, well being. How are people feeling? What should we try changing to maybe reduce some of the stress, or at least spread it evenly across
Yeah.
the team.
No, at least the important point is that the teams, the organizations should have a focus here. There could be multiple ways to do it, but at the end of the day, if you have an intent to actually take care of your teams, they would reciprocate back in terms
Right.
of the output that they're bringing in, the value they're creating. So it is cool. Like everywhere I see these kind of things happening where there could be pulse check-ins, there could be things like what you said,
Mhm.
that there is this dart you put on different emotions and try to understand. So that makes it more gamified and interesting for people to express themselves and come up with things that they are feeling. So really cool for sharing that with us. I think we'll try that in our company too.
Cool.
Cool, Eric. I think more or less these are the questions that I had. But before we let you go, I would like you to share some advice from your 30 years of experience that you would like to give probably to younger self or the audience that who is coming into this role. Any parting advice from you would be welcome.
Really, the some of the things that helped me out, also got me in trouble, is being honest. Just be completely open and honest, and and say, here's exactly what's going on, right? Good or bad. Um, you just need to have that honesty. And the big thing I've seen too, especially from people new to the industry, they're so afraid to be wrong. It's like, go ahead and
Right.
be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. We're wrong all the time. We don't know what we're doing. Welcome to the club. Be wrong, fail fast, but be able to recover from that. So make small mistakes. Go ahead and make mistakes. Just make them small and then learn from them.
No, that's a very apt, perfect advice. I think someone who comes in to the system and this is for the first time they're working in a particular role, they are too conscious to fail. They're too
Right.
conscious to express themselves being wrong. So people get into in that different direction if they are trying to defend themselves. So it's a very good advice. And honesty is definitely something I personally appreciate. When you are transparent, when you are telling what the exact situation is, people around you feel more comfortable, take
Yeah.
better decisions, and it becomes easy for you and the other people around you to operate in a better way. So,
Yep.
great piece of
Absolutely.
advice, Eric. Thank you so much for taking out this time and sharing your experience with us once again. Looking
Yep.
forward to having more discussions with you in the coming time.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much.